Here in West Java, it's really the beating heart of Indonesia's textile manufacturing. We're at a factory just south of Bandung and they're currently dyeing fabric behind me. This textile production is really helping to serve the insatiable global appetite for clothing, for apparel, for footwear and so on. But export-dependent businesses like this are starting to feel the bite of US President Donald Trump's so-called Liberation Day tariffs. And if they remain as high as they are, there'll be enormous financial consequences for businesses and employees. The United Nations Development Programme has modelled that Southeast Asia will be one of the hardest hit by global US tariffs, with an expected fall in exports to the US of about 10%. Early data from August shows exports from here in Indonesia to the US fell about 12.5% when tariffs kicked in. Indonesia, much like other Southeast Asian economies like Vietnam, Thailand, Philippines, Malaysia, they all rely heavily on their access to the US market, and they're really vulnerable to these tariffs. There's thousands of large and medium-sized textile businesses here in Indonesia, along with hundreds of thousands of small and micro businesses. This manufacturer says there could be a 20 to 30% decline in its exports to the US within 1 to 2 years, which would have massive financial consequences. It says it's deeply concerned about the impact of tariffs, with most US importers requesting discounts from the factory so costs aren't being passed on to US buyers, really squeezing their margins. Southeast Asian manufacturers have also had to deal with increasing competition from China, lowering global prices. And here in Indonesia, a surge of Chinese imports is also significantly pressuring local factories, sparking closures and job losses. With US President Donald Trump travelling to Malaysia in the coming days for ASEAN, he arrives on fairly shaky ground after the imposition of these tariffs. Nevertheless, Southeast Asian economies will be desperately trying to improve their bilateral relationships with the United States so that they can carve out exemptions to the tariffs or even hopefully reduce the tariff rate that they've been imposed with. If they're unsuccessful, there will be dire financial consequences for businesses like this one and its employees, likely having enormous impacts on the region.